Every year, British housebuilders complete around 200,000 new homes. The average buyer reports 157 defects at handover. The companies responsible are rarely fined, almost never prosecuted, and continue to receive public subsidies. This video explains how that is possible. On new estates across England, Scotland, and Wales, the houses appear complete, with fresh brickwork, tidy lawns, and keys handed over to families each day. Yet the numbers behind these handovers tell a different story. According to BuildScan, the average newly built home contains 157 defects at the point of completion. This figure, widely cited in the press and industry commentary, comes from a large database of snagging inspections and has nearly doubled since 2005. The scale is not limited to a handful of unlucky buyers. Major consumer surveys, including those by Which and the Home Builders Federation, consistently report that more than 90% of new build owners discover at least one defect after moving in, with a quarter facing more than 15 issues. These are not isolated complaints. Submissions to the all-party parliamentary group on new builds, as well as records from the New Homes Ombudsman, reinforce that the pattern repeats across regions and developers, year after year. Whether the average is 157 defects, as BuildScan claims, or a lower number in academic studies, the baseline remains. Defects are a routine part of the new build experience in the UK. With around 200,000 homes completed annually, the scale of the problem is measured in the millions of faults, not dozens. The question is not whether some homes have problems, but why the same problems persist on such a vast scale without meaningful consequences for those delivering them. The next step is to examine how the rules and standards that govern new build quality actually operate and what they leave out. Official sign-off for a new home in the United Kingdom is often mistaken for a guarantee of quality, but the reality is more limited. Building regulations are designed to set minimum standards for the most fundamental aspects of a dwelling: structural stability, fire safety, resistance to moisture, drainage, and basic thermal performance. These rules are meant to prevent catastrophic failures, not to ensure a high standard of finish or comfort. Interior decoration, joinery, tiling, and many common snagging items simply fall outside the mandatory code. A home can pass every regulatory check and still be handed over with loose fixtures, uneven plaster, or incomplete fittings. The process of inspection and approval is shaped by who controls it. Developers appoint and pay either a local authority building control team or a private approved inspector. This arrangement means the entity responsible for assessing compliance is also reliant on the developer for its fee. While codes of conduct and professional standards exist, the payment and instruction model creates an inherent tension between rigorous enforcement and commercial relationships. The inspection itself is a snapshot, often limited to key stages, rather than a continuous oversight of workmanship. Reforms following the Grenfell Tower fire have strengthened oversight for high-rise and high-risk buildings, bringing in the building safety regulator and independent fire safety panels. These changes focus on fire and structural safety, not on the everyday finish issues that dominate homeowner complaints. The sign-off system, by design, polices the minimum legal threshold, not the overall quality that buyers expect. For most defects that frustrate new owners, the regulatory framework provides no direct remedy at all. The promise of protection for new build buyers often centres on the NHBC Buildmark warranty, a 10-year scheme widely advertised in developer brochures. The structure is not as comprehensive as many expect. In the first 2 years after completion, the builder holds primary responsibility for addressing defects that fall short of NHBC's technical standards. During this period, buyers must contact the developer directly with any problems, whether minor or major. Only if the builder fails to act does the NHBC step in through its resolution service, and even then, intervention depends on the builder's response and the nature of the defect. From year 3 to year 10, the warranty changes form. The cover narrows to structural elements, foundations, load-bearing walls, and roofs. Issues with plasterwork, tiling, interior doors, or kitchen fittings, common sources of frustration, are no longer within the scope of the insurance. These finish-level defects, which dominate many owner complaints, must be resolved in the opening 2 years or not at all. After that, buyers facing persistent non-structural problems find themselves outside the strongest layer of protection. This leaves a practical gap. Many homeowners are left with unresolved snags, chasing repairs that fall between the cracks of contractual responsibility and insurance cover. Meanwhile, mortgage payments and the full financial obligations of ownership continue. The result is a system in which the warranty's headline duration masks a much more limited reality, and the day-to-day experience of living with defects becomes a private burden rather than a matter for formal redress. The New Homes Quality Board was set up in 2021 as a response to long-standing complaints about new build standards. Unlike statutory regulators, the New Homes Quality Board operates on a voluntary basis. Developers choose whether to join, and only those who opt in are bound by its code of practice. This means that the New Homes Ombudsman, launched alongside the NHQB in 2022, can only investigate complaints against participating builders. The reach of the Ombudsman is therefore defined not by law, but by industry take-up. Redress through the Ombudsman is limited further by compensation caps. While the NHQB website references a maximum award, the precise figure is not confirmed in publicly available, directly sourced documents. What is clear is that the Ombudsman has received more than 11,000 inquiries and complaints, resolving the majority within target timeframes. This volume alone challenges the idea that defects are rare or isolated, yet the process remains focused on resolving individual disputes rather than deterring future misconduct. The system's voluntary nature means that meaningful consequences for poor quality depend on whether developers see value in continued membership, not on legal obligation or the threat of enforcement. From 2013 to 2023, the Help to Buy equity loan scheme funneled over £15.8 billion into the United Kingdom's new build housing market. This public money was aimed at boosting sales and completions, not at enforcing long-term quality. Persimmon, one of the country's largest house builders, received more than £2 billion through the scheme, while its chief executive was awarded a £75 million bonus, sparking national debate. The contrast between such rewards and ongoing complaints about unfinished or defective homes reveals a deeper policy choice. State support measured success by the number of homes sold, not by the standard of those homes after handover. The National Audit Office confirmed that Help to Buy tracked eligibility and loan size, but set no requirements for post-sale defect performance. Across the sector, major builders like Barratt, Taylor Wimpey, Bellway, and Redrow operated within a system that valued throughput above quality. Public subsidy continued even as quality complaints persisted. The result was a market where the state backed volume, but left buyers exposed to the risks of poor workmanship. Legal consequences for poor quality new builds remain rare, even when defects are well documented. Under the Building Act 1984, local authorities can pursue prosecutions for breaches of building regulations, but such actions against major house builders are almost unheard of. Parliamentary records and APPG reports confirm that enforcement is typically limited to informal negotiation or civil remedies, rather than criminal prosecution. Consumer protection law, such as the Consumer Rights Act 2015, offers only a partial fit for new build disputes. Property is treated differently from ordinary goods. Buyers must often prove that a defect breaches the complex standard of satisfactory quality, a threshold that is not clearly defined for new homes. Legal analysis shows few court cases where individual purchasers have successfully won compensation for non-structural defects, and the costs and delays involved deter most from pursuing claims. Contract law, meanwhile, places the burden on individual buyers to challenge developers directly, one by one. Large firms are able to draw on substantial legal resources, making it difficult for owners to secure timely or affordable redress. In the UK, collective legal action is tightly restricted. Unlike in the United States, where class action lawsuits can bring systemic issues to court, group claims here require opt-in participation and face strict judicial controls. As a result, complaints rarely combine into cases large enough to create financial pressure on developers. The cumulative effect is a system that absorbs recurring complaints without translating them into meaningful penalties or incentives for change. The legal framework by design makes it costly and slow for homeowners to hold developers to account, and almost impossible for widespread defects to trigger sector-wide consequences. Today, incentives, minimum standards, and fragmented oversight continue to shape the homes British buyers receive. Until policy aligns quality, redress, and responsibility, the accountability gap remains built in, not accidental. The next new home is still governed less by law than by the structures that allowed the last one.